And we're back. We're live. My wife and I were just having our usual morning discussion, and she did something. She did a query on Google. I think what you asked. What you? I think you asked something like, "Is 2 degrees C above baseline the end of civilization?" Was that it?
Well, did the IPCC say that the 2 degrees C rise would be
Okay.
the end of
She asked something
civilization?
about the IPCC and their current
Because we're at
findings about 2 degrees C.
1.75
So
now. We're at 1.75.
yeah, that doesn't matter. So this is what she got back. She got back an AI response because there's no websites really that cover this right now. No one's really talking about this, but the AI, you may think, dear viewer, you may think this AI thing is a bunch of bullshit. Trust me, it isn't. You better start paying attention. So we asked the AI what the AI thought about this whole kerfuffle. And this is what we got back. It's a pretty good response, actually. It's a bit unnerving. While the IPCC does not, and this is AI. Okay, this is like superhuman intelligence summarizing our situation. Not a joke. Okay, I mean I've been summarizing our situation, but I'm not superhuman. I mean I'm close to it. Wink, wink. But anyway, I'm not. So while the IPCC does not explicitly state that a 2 degrees Celsius temperature increase would definitively, quote, end civilization, that was the question, their reports consistently indicate that reaching this level of warming would lead to extremely severe and widespread climate impacts, including large-scale food insecurity, mass migration, extreme weather events, and significant biodiversity loss, potentially putting immense strain on human societies and infrastructure, raising concerns about the viability of current civilization as we know it. Well, there you go. Straight from the AI. Now, I've been saying this for a year, right? Or longer. I've been saying this for the entire time I've been on this channel. But the reason I can say that, and the reason why the AI, when just asked the question straight up, is civilization going to survive 2 degrees C? And the AI looks around, looks at some papers and says, no. Okay, well, that's because what I'm doing here is kind of the same thing. I'm kind of doing synthesis, all right? I'm looking at all the data. I'm coming up with this. Well, it takes me a year. It takes this thing 4 seconds. Now, what does this mean? And why did I title this video? What did I title it?
We're at 1.75 now.
And we're at 1.75 right now. Did you know that? We were at 1.5 last summer before, and now we're already at 1.75, and we'll be at 2.0 this summer is my best guess. It may not stay there. It may drop down a little bit, but yeah, that, you don't drop down much. You drop down a little bit and then you grow it back up again later. So I titled this video, by 2030, it's over. Okay. And I absolutely mean that. That is not hyperbole. Now, what is it? It is everything you know. And you know a lot. We were just discussing last night, or maybe it was yesterday, I can't remember, that the built human world, humans. No, it was just this morning. Who was that you were quoting this morning? 56 KSS or something?
No, Sacroilides.
Sacroilides, George Sacroilides. Right.
About extinction.
No, about human extinction. Okay. George Sacroilides of Twitter was saying something today rather grim about human extinction. And I listened to that and I thought, yeah, he's right. He was wrong about something, and maybe I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, lots of people are having this discussion now. Oh, baby. If you're not paying attention, that's fine. You have a lot on your mind. Okay. You have a lot on your mind, and that's why you got me. And apparently, Google AI. Now, if you don't want to trust the Google AI and you think it's a psyops and you think it's all conspiracies and reptilians and lizard people, you think whatever you like, okay? It ain't. And we are at 1.75 degrees C above baseline today. By 2030, it's over. Why? Permit me to explain. Well, it's right here. Okay. It's right here on the AI. It's right here. I'll start over. While the IPCC does not explicitly state, because they don't, because they're sandbagging, the motherfuckers, does not explicitly state that a 2-degree Celsius temperature increase would definitively end civilization, quote unquote, the reports consistently indicate that reaching this level of warming would lead to extremely severe and widespread climate impacts, including large-scale food insecurity, mass migration, extreme weather events, and significant biodiversity loss, potentially putting immense strain on human societies and infrastructure, raising concerns about the viability of current civilizations as we know it. Boom. There you go. There you go. So how does this happen? Well, it's all right there. You don't need 200 feet of sea level rise. We'll get that too. Don't worry. You're going to get your sea level rise. You're going to have that. It may take 200 years. It could. But I've been saying for a long time, I'm not sure I've been saying it on this channel, but I should be saying it on this channel, that by the time we get any significant amount of sea level rise, human civilization will be completely wiped out. And the cities that will be flooding with the sea level rise, the coastal cities, just name a few. Miami, right? San Francisco, Los Angeles, Long Beach, San Diego, Galveston, a lot of cities, right? New York, Manhattan, and probably entire states, and certainly entire countries. But by the time that happens, by the time those places are ready to go into water, there won't be any people living there. They won't be living there. And the buildings will be empty, and the glass will be blown out of the windows and by hurricanes and whatnot, and the concrete will be crumbling, and the metal will be rusting, and it'll be over. And the water will rise, and it'll fill these buildings on the lower floors and finally put them underwater completely so that you can't even see them, except maybe the tops of the tallest buildings. Seriously, Manhattan would be just completely underwater, except for the tops of the tallest buildings. And, and no one will be there because sea level is not what's going to destroy us. People keep talking about that, but that's not what's going to destroy us. What's going to destroy us? Severe weather, changes in where crops can be grown. How much crops can be grown? Is it even enough? Where people can live, in particular, people who kind of live outdoors, so they have minimal air conditioning and heating. They have minimal protections when they're outdoors, and they basically just kind of live outdoors. Someone who's living in a mud hut with a tin roof is essentially living outdoors. And the only reason that works for them is because conditions for them right now are suitable for human habitat. It never gets too hot, never gets too cold. They're probably tropical, and it rains a lot, and that's what the tin roof is for. And otherwise they're fine. And so long as they're fine, so long as things don't get completely crazy, they're okay. But once things get completely crazy, then they don't have, it's just a fork on the road for these people. Either, they can get out. Where do they go? How do they get there? I don't know. But if they can figure it out, they can get out, or if they don't get out, I mean, they die in place. My concern used to be like years ago, my concern was that nations would be completely overwhelmed by hundreds of millions of people leaving populated countries or even populated continents like most of Africa or most of South America, and trying to head towards other countries that are either wealthier or further north or have more arable land or are more advanced technologies or whatever. But studies have suggested, and I have since decided pretty much independently of that, just by thinking about it, I mean, you have to think about things, that actually almost nobody's going to get out. That's bad, but that's also sad to say that's good. People will die in place. They won't get out. The wealthy will get out. And we may already be seeing some of that. The price of housing in my community, right here where I live, is going up rapidly, and the houses that go on the market are paid for with cash, like they're on the market 3 days, and someone buys it with cash. And so that tells me a couple of things. There's a lot of money sloshing around in the Bay Area where I live. And I can guarantee you that's new money. That's people coming here. And why are they coming here? They're leaving someplace else. So the exodus has already started. People are already voting with their feet, and that's going to be the wealthy. And they're going to show up in places where they think, there's going to be more law and order. There's going to be more resources. Supply chains aren't going to break down quite so quickly. And they're going to go places where money talks. And, wealthy countries, money talks. Countries with a good industrial base, money talks. Countries with stable financial institutions, money talks. So if you got money, then those are the places you're looking for. And where are those places? I don't know. I don't know much about it personally, but you can figure it out. You could do a Google search if you wanted to. What would be the question? You could ask, where's the best place? You could say, I've got millions of dollars. Where's the best place for me to live to avoid impacts from climate change? You'd probably get an answer. You'd probably get a fucking answer. And then I might ask you, well, how many millions do you have? What can you afford? I mean, that's what your real estate agent would ask you, right? And pretty soon we're going to have artificial intelligence that'll ask you that. Could you be more specific? Because it matters how many millions you've got. You got 1 million. That ain't much anymore. You got 10 million, maybe 100 million. All right, now we're talking. Hey, that could be the kind of conversation you have with your AI in the future. People are not going to be able to leave unless they've got tens of millions of dollars. They're going to be stuck because it takes a lot of money to talk that talk, to just go wherever you want. I mean, a lot of money. The United States government will be selling refugee visas. They'll be selling it for probably $10 million a head. You got $10 million? Okay, fine. That will buy you one entry visa and one green card, and you can come and you can live and work in the U.S. if you've got $10 million. Thank you very much. And is that corruption? No, that could be the law. Donald Trump is transactional. He could actually he could work with Congress, the Republicans, to pass a law. And I don't know, then his buddies would set up corporations that would manage buying and selling visas to rich people. And, he might even get a cut, just like Vladimir Putin gets a cut of every barrel of oil that's sold. These are transactional people. They want the money. What do you want done? Can I do that? Yeah, now I can do that. I just figured that out. Well, I want a cut because I just figured that out for you. You got money? I want the money. Give me the money. And Vladimir Putin gets money from every barrel of oil that's sold. And, Donald Trump will eventually get money from every visa he can sell to someone coming in from Africa. But when people start moving around, it's going to fall apart. People are already moving around. And what do? They disrupt everything. They don't mean to, but they do. All this money being injected into my neighborhood, all these houses going for, 50% over the asking price. I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but certainly 10 or 20% over the asking price, all cash. I mean, come on. When was the last time you saw that in your neighborhood? The houses are selling for over the asking price, 3 days on the market with an all cash deal. When was the last time you did that? So this is very disruptive. Young people have no chance, zero chance of buying a home in our community. So they become refugees. They have to leave. So we have foreigners moving into our neighborhood here. I'm not xenophobic. I don't care who they are. But we got foreigners moving into our neighborhood here, just displacing our own young people who then have to move someplace else. And when they move someplace else, they are now refugees. So they're displacing people in turn. And that's how it actually works. Today we're at 1.75 degrees above baseline, degrees Celsius above baseline. And it's already started. It's already begun. Inflation is taking off. Food costs are taking off. And, governments think they're going to be able to control this, and they're not. Because money talks. And as things become scarce, people with money will say, oh, well, I still want mine. I still want some. And so they're going to get it. And what happens when people are moving around and the heat is moving around and governments are under pressure from immigrants and there's all these inequalities and perceived injustices? It's not really injustice. It's just people with money doing what people with money do, which is whatever they want to do. But it looks unjust to you because you're not able to participate at that level. But for them, it's just, well, I've got the money. If you've got the money, you can play. This is a market economy, pay to play. But it disrupts everything. And how long can civilization stand up to even just the one little thing? Rich people leaving one place on earth in large numbers, bringing large amounts of money and moving someplace else. I don't know. A few years of that. And pretty soon it'll get to a point where, like where I'm sitting right now in my little funky house on my funky lot in my funky neighborhood, someone could come along and say, yeah, we're buying up this entire block. Who are you? Well, we're from some place you've never heard of, but we've got a lot of money and we've got lots of people back where we live who want to come live in the Bay Area. And so we're buying up land and we want your land. And well, I don't want to sell. I'm too old to be moving. I like it here. I like what I've built here and I'm comfortable with it and it's fun and I enjoy it. I enjoy having the land. I enjoy having a garden. They're like, yeah, well, you have to move though. Well, no, I don't have to move. Yes, you do, because we're going to throw a lot of money at you. Oh, really? So then they throw a lot of money at me. And then if I'm still recalcitrant, then probably they go to the city and throw money at somebody over there and say, get these people out. And then they come over here and they harass us and, whatever, your lawn is messy or there's leaves on your trees or whatever, right? And they harass us until we have to take the money and leave. And then we're climate refugees. And where do I go? And I go with a lot of money. You see, I'm not going to go live in a cardboard box in Seattle. I've got what, $3, $4, $5 million. I got booted off my property, but it costs somebody money and they've got lots of money. They don't care. But now they're moving in. All these houses for, I don't know, blocks in all directions get leveled. It all ends up being luxury condominiums with pools and electric car charging stations and every other goddamn thing. And all of us who were here, some of we're just, working class people that live here, we're gone. We're basically evicted. Now, because I'm a landholder, I do obviously much better than someone who's a renter. But, it's kind of the same thing because the renter on my left and me with my whatever $3, $4, $5 million in profits, we're both on the same bus. We're on the bus. We're on the bus and we're going someplace else. We're both on the same bus going someplace else. And that's just disruptive. And for old people being basically evicted, here's a bunch of money. Yeah, but you're evicting me from my home. So what? Now I have a stroke and a heart attack, right? Because all the stress and I have to start all over again with my entire fucking life. But I've got money, but I don't have time because I'm old and I'm inflexible and I have a heart problem and everything else. And so now I have to go to Seattle or go to Montana, what the fuck ever. And I've got $3 million, but whatever. I just had a stroke. Okay. And yes, it's disruptive. People are going to die. I didn't sign up for that. But that's what's going to happen. Because people aren't going to be able to stay in one place. And if they got money, they're going to hit the road. Or, of course, they're going to get in their private jet. Not joking. Not joking at all. If you are a millionaire in Nigeria because you got in on the oil deals and you and Vladimir Putin are tight and you're doing all this oil deals and you've got billions of dollars, but up jumps climate change. You can't live in Nigeria anymore because it's too hot and too many storms and there's too many poor people riding in the streets and the towns are on fire and people are being murdered and you're living in Nigeria and you've got your luxury condo on the penthouse floor but you're looking down and it's all smoke and bodies and guns firing in the air and you're like, well, I got to get the fuck out of here. Yes, you're a multimillionaire. Yes, you've got it big in on the Nigerian oil or gold or uranium or whatever it was that you were on the ground floor of and Bitcoin or something. But you have to get out. You're a refugee. Good Lord. And so you abandon your luxury apartment and you get on your private jet and you fly to wherever. And you get off at the airport and you're a refugee. Yes, you got a suitcase full of money or a suitcase full of gold bars or you've got Swiss bank accounts or whatever, but you're a refugee. You had to leave Nigeria. You had to leave Chad. You had to leave wherever. South Africa. Didn't even matter. You had to leave. You had to leave because you couldn't survive there. You couldn't survive there. You're a multimillionaire and you couldn't survive there because you can't buy safety and security and food supplies and supply chains and order and law. You can't buy those things. That's civilization. And if people aren't surviving, they're not going to put up with it. They're going to riot. They're going to drag people out of their homes and beat them. They're going to abreact. They're going to be crazy because they're afraid that it's over for them, and it probably is. And so that's why by 2030, it's over. Yeah, we've got about 4 years, maybe 5, and it's just going to get increasingly worse. We're at 1.75 degrees above baseline right now. The amount of weather disruption we're having is unhinged. The shit I'm seeing right now is just unbelievable. And it just gets worse. And if they're worried that 2.0 is the point where, the wheels come off, well, that's going to be this summer. And maybe it's temporary. Maybe it drops back down and then it goes back up and it drops back down. But it's the trend is up. Okay. So even if you get a brief reprieve for a year or two, well, then it's going to come right back. And all the time that it's going up, ratcheting up, more and more places on the globe, more and more places on the map are giving it up. They just can't keep themselves together. And so people leave. They leave. And what are we supposed to do with those people? They're the ones with money. They're going to buy their ways into whatever situation actually works for them. And remember, behind all this is weather extremes, crop failures, loss of arable land, floods, and and this is doom porn, right? This is everybody saying, "Oh, biblical, frogs raining from the sky." That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual extreme weather, like what we are seeing, like happened 2 weeks ago. I think it turned out to be 10 inches of snow in New Orleans, Louisiana. NOLO, okay? Bourbon Street, where they do the Mardi Gras, right? Beads and jazz and all that stuff. 8 inches of snow. That's extreme weather. That's extreme weather. Well, it does that all the time. No, it don't. No, it does not. And they've come close to that several times this year already. But like every week, a huge Arctic air mass comes down, and it's got every time it comes down, it gets a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, which makes you think there is something progressively falling apart, and that's what's happening, progressively disintegrating. And these cold Arctic air masses, there's nothing to stop them, and they went as far as the Gulf of Mexico, and you can't go any further than that because the Gulf of Mexico is water, and the Gulf of Mexico is hot. Because all the oceans, large bodies of water on the planet are now excessively hot. So your cold air mass comes down to the Gulf of Mexico and it stops. That's it. That can't go any further. It could only really travel over land. When it gets to the water, it's done. So that's what it did. And they had freezing temperatures all the way down into Florida. Freezing. Snow in Florida. Oh, they get snow in Florida once in a while. Yeah, well, they've been getting these cold air masses every other week for 2 months now. They just keep coming. So at some point, that's the pattern. And there's no escaping it. There's no way out. And this pattern continues, and it continues like this, except that it gets worse. Then, from where I'm sitting, where I'm looking at data and I'm watching what's happening with the weather, as I said, I monitor these things because I'm interested in the data. I don't really care what the weather is going to be like in Kentucky, but I'm interested in what's happening in Kentucky, if that makes any sense, because I need the data. So when you see these trends, they're going in a direction. You've got a couple of data points, and you can put a line through them, and that arrow points someplace. And by 2030, the place where we land, where we end up, is going to be uninhabitable Earth. Not everywhere. And in some places, not as bad as others, and for different reasons. but it just becomes marginally uninhabitable for people. And it doesn't have to be uninhabitable for you personally. I mean, I live here in the Bay Area. It's probably going to be fine. But my problem is not here. My problem is a teleconnection, a distant connection to Nigeria, South Africa, Brazil, and whatever problems, or Colombia or in Mexico, and whatever problems they're having become my problem. And not because poor people are going to be pouring over the borders, although there will be some of that, especially in the case of Mexico having a border with the US. It's not going to be people pouring over borders. There will be some of that. The military can handle that, right? That's what bullets are for, okay? I hate to say it, but that's what bullets are for. There's going to be a whole other group of people who just get on their private jet and fly to the nearest international airport and get out and start handing out $100 bills. I need help with this and I need help with that. And you can show me to a hotel and you can help me find a real estate agent. And here's 10,000 for the real estate agent, sight unseen. Now find me a place to live and it has to be good. And here's more money for the remodelers and here's more money for the city. And and they just start handing out money. And they land in the airport and they start handing out money and people start jumping up and down, doing what they need done. And pretty soon they're in a home and they bought the home. It was on the market and they bought it and it was off the market in 3 days and they paid cash for it and they move in and now nobody can afford that home ever again. Because it was on the market for $1 million, which is too much for most people, and it sold for $2 million. And so now that's the price of homes in the neighborhood, $2 million. And no one can afford that except rich people flying in from Nigeria. And that's how the human world ends. And you don't need sea level rise. You don't even need heat, record-breaking heat, although that's not going to help. You just need a lot of people who just give up, who just say, this isn't working. The situation in my country isn't working. This is bad. This is going in the wrong direction. But I've got money and I'm getting out. And how many people are there in that situation in the world who can just up sticks, fill their suitcase with an overnight clothing and just go? And the answer is it's hundreds of millions of people can do that. I could do that. I could sell my house. I could probably put it on the market, probably be sold in 2 weeks, and take the $1.5 million or something, $1.25 million, and just leave. Put some clothes in a suitcase, or maybe not even that, just the clothes I'm wearing, and just leave, and decide where I want to go, and just get on a plane and go and be gone. I could be gone 24 hours, less. I could be gone in 8 hours. Because that's what happens when you have resources. But my neighbors can't do that. And my neighbors over there can't do that. And the guy who's running a business across the street, he can't do that because he's got a business. All his money's tied up in his business. And he's got employees and whatever. And, there are lots of people that just can't do that. And they get stuck. And then when the wheels come off, then they are the ones protesting and they are the ones looking for food and wondering where the food and the water is and why did the electricity go off and all the terrible things. And that's more likely to happen, in the developing world. Sad to say, that's true. But it's likely to happen anywhere. Really, could happen anywhere. Southern California has a particular setup right now. There's 7 million people living in the LA urban area or something like that. Every one of those people is in the crosshairs. When we hit 2 degrees C above baseline this summer, it's possible that LA simply becomes a death trap, uninhabitable. How does that happen? It gets really hot. Everybody turns on the air conditioning. The air conditioning is running all the time. It runs day and night. And pretty soon the electrical resources are stressed and strained. And of course, you could buy electricity from Colorado and New Mexico and Nevada and Oregon and Texas, but they are also having the same problem. This is now a regional problem. Heat is a regional problem. So they're busy buying electricity too, and they can't sell it to California because they've got their own problems. So pretty soon you start to get the brownouts, and pretty soon you get started getting rotating blackouts. And when it gets that hot and you don't have air conditioning or it's not working reliably, then you have to get out. You have to get out. You just have to, or you're going to die, because you can't live in Southern California without air conditioning and a heat wave, and you won't have electricity. And also, air conditioners, people don't have them or they don't work well, or under some circumstances, especially brownouts and frequent blackouts, air conditioners, the compressors can just blow up. They can just freeze up and die. And so there will be people with older air conditioning units or older technology that just goes kablooey. And they're all going to go kablooey at the same time. And so what's the chance of your landlord, if you're a renter, coming out there and fixing your AC in the middle of a heat wave? Not happening. Can't even find the air conditioning technician. Can't even find these people anymore. Plus, some of them are leaving town too. They're saying, "Oh man, I can't deal with this. My air conditioning blew up in my apartment where I live with my family. We can't stay here. We got to get out. I don't know where we're going to go. We're going to go live with our family in Utah until this settles down." So they leave, and that guy's an air conditioning technician. So who's he? He's not fixing any air conditioners, and so all the air conditioners that are old, they blow up. And pretty soon you got people out on the streets, and you've got cooling centers, and you got bodies in the hallways, and you got bodies on the street, and people are dying, and cars are crashing into each other because someone just died in their car. And they just drove into an intersection, hit a bunch of cars. And now that intersection is full of cars because they can't move this car. And everyone's screaming at each other and fighting at fist fights and road rage because it's hot. And they're angry and they're terrified and they're frightened. They don't know what to do. And the police show up, and then there's gunfire, and then there's more bodies, and then there's more wrecks. And then it just completely falls completely apart. The wheels just come absolutely off. Completely. In the middle of a heat wave. And then if you happen to be living in an area where the roads have just become parking lots because of cars overheating and people shooting at each other and road rage and dying in their car of a stroke and driving into 2 or 3 other cars. And, if you're living in that area, you can't get out and you have no power. And your air conditioner is not working, or it blew up, or it's not working well enough, and you have nowhere to go. And wherever you're going to go, you're going to walk. And what happens when you're walking in a heat wave? And it's concrete over here, and it's asphalt over there, and there's no trees anywhere. And you have to walk to the cooling center that someone set up at the YMCA, but it's 3 miles away. And there you are, you're diabetic, or you're old, or you're overweight, or you got 3 kids, or whatever the challenges are that you have to face. And you got to walk 3 miles over burning concrete, burning asphalt, heat wave here, smog so bad you can't even breathe, people, road rage, people driving cars up on the sidewalk, and you're supposed to walk 3 miles to a cooling center. And when you get there, it's full because everybody had the same problem you did at the same time for the same reason. And then what do? Maybe you die. I know that sounds terrible, but you have to think this through. You have to think it through. Your responsibility is your survival. If you can survive, then you can start thinking about pulling other people into your survival solution. And maybe you start with your immediate family, or maybe you start with your immediate friends. And maybe you try to pull together and help each other through this. But it starts with the individual, and everyone's going to have to make that decision. Can I survive this? And when you look out your apartment window, your air conditioner just failed. The power just went out for the 4th time today. And when the power came on, the air conditioner didn't come back on. It's gone. It's blown up. Okay. And you go to your balcony and you're like, man, what am I supposed to do? And you look down in the street, and it's just solid cars, or nearly solid cars. And there's police over there, and there's police over there, but they're not moving because they're stuck in traffic too. And there's all these people walking back and forth, and some of them are stepping over bodies on the sidewalk. And when that moment comes, what are you going to do? What are you going to think? I can tell you what you're going to do. You're going to panic, because everybody does. It came too fast. There was no warning. And in the end, you didn't know what to do. You didn't do it soon enough. And when the chips were down, you couldn't do it at all. And by 2030, that's what's going to be happening all the time. And the heat waves, maybe they're only a week, maybe they're only 5 days, but they're going to be hot enough and long enough that this starts to happen. And when it starts to happen, people who can get out are going to get out. They're going to say, this isn't working. I don't know why the power failed 3 days out of this week, but my air conditioning went down and it got really hot in my luxury penthouse apartment. And when I looked out the balcony, and I'm usually up here where it's safe, and I look out the balcony, I'm looking down on the street, there's bodies, there's blood on the sidewalks, there's people, I hear gunshots, there's people driving their cars on the sidewalk, there's panic, and here I am in my penthouse thinking I'm doing pretty good, and now I'm stuck in the middle of a urban area, and it's 40 miles in all directions to get anywhere, and every inch of that 40 miles is impassable. Every inch of it. Not to mention the bullets in the air, not to mention the road rage, not to mention the looting and the fires. And the fires can just start because of the heat. But of course, there will be people starting fires too. And all the things, and the smoke and the panic and the screaming and the guns and the sirens and nothing happening, no one stepping in, no improvement, no chance of an improvement. Maybe in a week it'll blow over and it'll fix itself. But right now, I've got no food, no water, no plan. I'm stuck in my penthouse and I need to get out of here. But it's too late. It's too late. And that's going to be the story by 2030. Starting now and getting progressively worse until by 2030, maybe even 2028. 2030 is probably optimistic. By 2030, everybody's going to get it. Everybody's going to understand. The governor of California will understand. The president of the U.S. will understand. Every senator, every representative, they'll all be in denial. They'll say it's all a hoax. And if it's not a hoax, it's caused by China. And they'll be doing all that. But it doesn't matter because physics wins. And even if you want to be in denial and blame it on the Chinese and blame it on the Indians and blame it on the woke or whatever, the trans people, I don't even know who you're going to blame. It doesn't change physics. Does it? No, it doesn't. So George Sakalides was saying today, my wife read it to me. He was saying that we are now going into a situation where there will be no habitat for survival. I think it was the last video I talked about this, extinction, right? And maybe it was my book. I wrote a whole chapter in my book that I'm publishing soon. I wrote a whole chapter about extinction. And man, there's a lot to know about extinction. Let me tell you, I'm probably an expert in this subject, and I just did a brain dump, okay? And there's a lot going on with extinction. But George Sakalides kind of hit it. He kind of did it right. That when we get to 2 degrees C above pre-industrial baseline, it's going to be too hot to have survivable habitat, and that therefore we go into an extinction event. And species unable to adapt. Okay, that was his words, and that is the correct way to say it. That when this is how we talk about this in biology. Okay, when conditions in the environment change too quickly and too broadly, meaning it's not just a little place that's changing, but the whole place is changing. So too quickly and too broadly and too extreme, then organisms can't adapt. And we're already seeing this everywhere. The boreal forest in Canada is essentially dead and dying. Trees, of course, can't move. So as it got warm up there, because of global heating is real, all right? As it got warm up there, the trees couldn't move. And they're adapted to colder climates. This is the boreal forest. It's up near the Arctic Circle, okay? This is Canada. And the trees are not adapted to warm environments. Now, the bark beetles is what's killing the trees, but it doesn't matter. The trees could survive even with bark beetles being endemic to the area. because the winters would kill the bark beetles back. And so the trees had enough bark and enough responses that the level of bark beetle infestation was okay-ish and they could survive. But when the bark beetles are not interrupted or suppressed by the cold, which we can't have anymore because of global heating, well, then the trees can't adapt. So the combination of temperature, rainfall, bark beetle infestations, and other things, the trees are dying. They're dying. And that's why we're having these, one of the reasons why we're having these enormous fires in the boreal forest in Canada. Fires that are so big that they cannot even be fought. People, you can't fight them. You can't fly the fires and drop water on them. You can't have trucks, nothing. These are huge areas of land that burn, and they burn so hot and so aggressively that they burn through entire towns. And Canada has lost entire towns to these fires because they're just so terrible. And you could think, well, if they fought it, if they pruned their trees and they raked their leaves and all these kind of things, no, you'd be wrong. You would just be 100% incorrect. And you can think whatever you like, but that's not the problem. The problem is global heating. And when it gets hot and the trees are already dead or dying, and they start off-gassing their pitch, and it's in the air and it's all flammable. The pitch is flammable, and the pitch vapors are flammable, and it's all flammable. And someone lights a match and starts their barbecue, and it falls over, and the whole thing goes up in flames. Or they park in the grass, and the grass catches fire from the hot catalytic converter underneath, which every car has. Then the fires just go. Everything's perfect, and the fires just go. And then they burn like crazy. 5,000 acres an hour, and you can't fight a fire like that. No, they need more people and they need more budget. And the mayor was out of town. It's like, no, none of that has anything to do with it. It's the conditions on the ground. And this is already happening. And we barely crossed 1.5 degrees C when all this started happening. And now we're up to 1.75 degrees C. And that's not going down. I keep thinking, well, it might go down, but it's not going down. And I guess this summer it's going to be 2 degrees C above baseline. And they're already saying, yeah, 2 or maybe 3 degrees C above baseline is the end of civilization. The wheels come off. Wow. Okay. There you go. The summer of 2025 and the wheels come off. Really? Wow. Okay. Excuse me. Did you say the wheels come off this summer? Did I hear you correctly? Well, okay. So what am I going to do about that? That's the question, isn't it? What are you going to do about that? I don't know. What can you do? The answer for most people, 99% of people, what can you do about that? What can you do about 2 degrees C above baseline and the wheels coming off? What can you do about that? And the answer is going to be nothing. You can do exactly nothing. And it gets harder once the wheels come off. There's an opportunity for thinking people and people who don't mind planning their lives around events to maybe do something in advance. That there's something for you. You could try to do something in advance. What would that be? Well, my general admonition before I sign off here, my general admonition is to get to the lifeboats. If you were on the Titanic, and maybe you don't jump in the lifeboats as soon as someone says the Titanic has sprung a leak, but maybe you look around and you're monitoring the situation. And then at some point you say, okay, that's it for me. I'm looking for a lifeboat. So at some point you're looking for a lifeboat. And as we like to say these days, collapse early and avoid the rush, because, the first person to get to the lifeboat probably has a seat. And after that, not so much. So what can you do with your life right now that you could, start edging towards the lifeboats? I don't know. My definition of a lifeboat here in late phase modernity is community life, village life. So could you start thinking about village life? Could you start worrying about what that's going to look like for you personally? Maybe you already live in such a place. Maybe you already have a cooperative group of people who work together, raise their children together, and have crops and raise their animals and work the fields and pick the fruits and vegetables. And maybe you already have that working, but probably don't, right? Let's just face it. This is the modern world, and we don't do that kind of shit anymore. Only poor people have gardens. Only poor people work the fields. Only poor people have animals. The rest of us, we get our shit from Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Safeway and whatever, Albertsons, and we have credit cards, and that's how we do things. Yeah, well, Yeah, you could forget that. You can just forget that. When there's a heat wave and you're looking for the last bottle of water, yeah, that's not going to help you. Your credit card's not going to help you. Your credit card is not going to manufacture a bottle of water for you. All right. And the same thing applies to food chains and medical assistance and getting to a cooling center or having your air conditioning fixed or anything else. Your credit card is not going to make those things happen for you because the wheels have come off. I mean, that's what that means. When I say the wheels have come off, I mean it's done. And maybe in 2 or 3 years it'll be less done, and you'll be able to go back to some semblance. But for a while, it's going to be really bad. Starting now. Starting now. I don't know when the wheels are going to come off, but I know they are. And so does the AI on Google. And so do some scientists, apparently, because when the AI went looking for opinions to answer the question, I'll read this again. While the IPCC does not explicitly state that a 2 degree C temperature increase would definitively end civilization, why would they say that? Seriously? The IPCC is run by the governments. You think you think these sacks of shit are going to come level with you? To be honest with you, while the IPCC does not explicitly state that the wheels are going to come off, the reports consistently indicate, meaning if you read the actual reports, okay, that reaching this level of warming would lead to extremely severe and widespread climate impacts. Well, there you go. Katie, bar the door. No, the IPCC isn't going to tell you in their executive summary, right? The 2 paragraphs that everybody reads that at 2 degrees C, the wheels come off. But if you read into it and you actually read the 1,400 pages or the 14,000 pages, you actually read that shit. Not that anybody does, but the AI reads it. All right, so let's just go with that, shall we? Then if you actually read the shit, then yeah, the reports consistently indicate that reaching this level of warming would lead to extremely severe and widespread climate impacts, including large-scale food insecurity, mass migration, extreme weather events, and significant biodiversity loss, potentially putting immense strain on human societies and infrastructure, raising concerns about the viability of current civilization as we know it. And that includes you. As you know it. 2 degrees C. Wheels are coming off. And that's this summer. Ba-boom. Ba-da-ba-doom. This summer. 2 degrees C. It may not last, but it might. And how many weeks of 2 degrees C above baseline do you think civilization can handle? I think it can't handle any weeks at that level. I don't think, and it doesn't take every country on the planet, 191 countries, to suffer massive disruptions for the wheels to come off. It really only takes about a dozen. And go to Equatorial Africa, go to Central America, go to the Middle East, go to Southeast Asia. You can find a dozen countries real fast. Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Syria again, Jordan, all of North Africa. There's like 6 countries right there. I'm not even going to name them. All of sub-Saharan Africa. That's another 10 countries I'm not even going to name. Mexico, Colombia, Panama. It's a long list, people. A long list. South Africa. A lot of people live in South Africa. Good God. Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, not so much Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines. Any one of these nations, any dozen of these nations, the wheels could come off this summer. This summer. And where are you going to be when that happens? Now, those poor people won't be able to come to your neighborhood. Lucky you, or lucky me, because that would be disruptive. But the rich people will, and they'll bring money. And that leads to inflation, crowding, another level of violence. Rich people can bring violence. Rich people showing up in large numbers can destabilize their new home. Their children will be angry, and the entire family will be suffering from PTSD. So lots of anxieties, lots of mental disturbance, lots of anger. You don't suffer a disruption like that and not get anxious, fearful, and therefore angry. And especially when the young people are uprooted and sent overseas to places that don't really want to see them and don't understand them and don't speak their language, and the schools are all wrong. The young people are going to lose their shit. And if they happen to come to America and lose their shit, they're going to find themselves up to their eyeballs in guns. Now, I'm not saying that to be mean to anybody, because we already have our own problems with our own children up to their eyeballs in guns, and suffering from PTSD and ill health, mental health. But if you start bringing in hundreds of thousands and millions of people with their suitcases full of gold bars, doesn't even matter, they're going to be disturbed and upset and angry. And let's face it, it's not going to take them long to put two and two together. And they're going to say, why? I wonder why I had to leave my home. I wonder why I had to leave my country and my familiar environment and my school and my extended family. Why did I have to leave all that? Oh, that's right. Global heating and climate change. Now, I wonder who caused that. Oh, that's right. All these people that I'm living embedded in now. And if you're young and you have a lot of anxiety and you're angry and you're frightened and all these things, you may not know what to do with yourself. Now, whose fault is that? Not their fault. They didn't sign up for that. They didn't sign up to be, run out of their own country with a suitcase full of their clothes and that's it. And they can never go back. They didn't sign up for that. And so here they are. Wealthy, could definitely pull it together, but they're climate refugees with money, climate refugees with money. And, no counseling, no community support, angry, frightened, vengeful. What are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? I don't know. It's nobody's fault that the wheels come off. But the wheels will come off. I don't think there's any way to stop that. I don't think there's anything we can do about any of this. Ever. The wheels are coming off. I don't know when. Maybe this summer, maybe the summer after. But by 2030, you better be where you need to be, with whom you need to be with. And you need to be thinking right now about building, finding, locating, stealing a lifeboat. I guess that's enough. Got things to do. It's going to rain. I got work to do before it rains. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do this once in a while. I don't know why you keep coming back, but okay, fine. As long as you keep coming back, I guess I'll keep doing it. Can't help you much, except I'm just giving you as much honest assessment as I possibly can. And, keep your ear to the ground, keep a weather eye out, monitor things. And if it starts to slip and slip and slip, then you need to make a tough decision real fast. Let's hope you can do that. Let's hope you can be one of the people who can throw your shit in a suitcase and get on a plane or a bus or a train and make tracks. Let's hope you can do that. But you need to think about that in advance. Okay, you need to think about what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. Because this shit's getting real. You got it from me, and you'll get it from the AI if you ask them. Concurrency of voices, okay? I guess that's it. See you next time.